Hello, everyone. This is Joshua Kirk, and you're listening to the Album of the Day podcast. On this show, I look at albums I've reviewed and speak with the musicians behind the albums, as well as their careers, discographies, and future projects. My first guest is one of my favorite songwriters working today in indie music, and that is Los Angeles native Phoebe Bridgers. Her latest album, Punisher, was one of the most critically acclaimed albums of 2020, earning 4 Grammy nominations. I recorded this interview with Phoebe Bridgers on March 26th, 2021, and I spoke with her about a myriad of topics, including Punisher and her discography, smashing her guitar on Saturday Night Live, and much more. So without further ado, I hope you all enjoy my interview with Phoebe Bridgers, my first guest on Album of the Day. Without further ado, I'm just gonna hop into some questions here. My first one probably won't surprise you. It's about the Grammys, which happened in March, and you have been nominated for the following categories: Best New Artist, Best Alternative Album, Best Rock Song, and Best Rock Performance. That's for your song Kyoto. Getting these nominations, has this created any additional pressure for you? Like, why or why not?
Kind of. Like, it's weird because I just kind of take for granted that that stuff doesn't really reach my world. Like, a lot of people on indie labels don't get nominated, and so it's definitely not something to take for granted. But then there's this added pressure of, like, I don't know. Yeah, just like a wider audience and yeah, more like Twitter trolls being like, "Who the hell is this?" or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
also really cool. Like, I think because it's so unexpected for me, it's awesome. Like Bright Eyes never went to the Grammys, and
Oh, yeah.
they sold out like 9,000 capacity shows more times than.
Yeah. Even though now I have the funny image of Conor Oberst holding a Grammy in my head. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it does kind of add a weird pressure, but also like like I just have to realize that there is no pressure because yeah, like it was a cool year to get nominated too because of like Big Thief and stuff. It's just
And Fiona, and yeah, I bet it was wild to be, yeah, kind of attending the same event as people like Megan Thee Stallion, Billie Eilish, and Taylor Swift. But yeah, like I definitely, glad you uh, got that kind of recognition, because I oddly enough saw that coming, considering how much you've blown up in 2020.
I'm glad. I definitely didn't really see it coming. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's just something you never really learn to expect as an indie musician, you know? So yeah, it was cool, but it was very weird during COVID, especially just like
Oh
so
yeah, yeah. But I liked how small it was, because almost none of the performances sucked. So I definitely was very happy about that.
true. I love COVID performing because you could say that it's just more edited or more controlled or something, but I actually really like that because
Yeah.
it allows you to be more creative and more deliberate. And I liked the Heim performance because it's like you can tell that they're just rocking out and it's real. Like it doesn't take away from the live aspect, you know?
Yeah, I definitely, I really appreciate that sort of thing. My next question for you also won't surprise you. It's about you performed on SNL, and at the end of your second song, I Know the End, you smashed your guitar, which became a little controversial, on Twitter. Uh, so for me personally, I definitely thought that that kind of physical moment only added to the song's climax. So yeah, I thought it was great. What really inspired you to do something like that?
Well, we were talking about production. The way that it works is you kind of give SNL all your ideas and then they build something for you. They work with like the same team to build sets for all the acts and I mean I loved Billy's where she was like spinning around, but I have like a rock band, so there was, for a solo vocalist, they do a lot of kind of crazier stuff in the background, but for a rock band, they really kind of want it to look like a rock band and just have the whole band play. So I was trying to think of ideas of how to like make it fun. And then I at the very last minute, I was making a record for a friend with my friend Nate Walcott, who's in Bright Eyes. And
Oh yeah, and he played trumpet in that performance too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I was like, so he played on the record. He wrote the parts for Kyoto, and I Know the End. He played trumpet, and he was like, "Please, can I please play? Can I please come to New York?" And I was like, "Absolutely. Are you kidding?" And so we had Nate and this other trumpet player, and so I remembered this old Bright Eyes performance on TV where everybody smashes their instruments.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Like that's crazy. Like yeah, it's Craig Ferguson. They're playing Road to Joy, and I remember like Nate smashing his trumpet, Connor smashing his guitar. Like yeah, yeah, I saw the performance, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, that is a Connor Oberst move right there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was really cool, and I was like, "Nate, I know you brought your nice trumpet. I'm not going to ask you to smash it, but I think I'm going to smash my guitar," which of course was like under $100. And then SNL was really excited about it and was like, "We're going to build a monitor that like blows up." So I actually smashed two because they make you do it all in dress rehearsal, which I appreciate. Like it's like a real dress rehearsal. But yeah, so it was all planned and all rehearsed and super fun. And then it was really funny to like go on my phone and see that like a bunch of old men were yelling at me. It was really funny.
Oh yeah, but luckily, plenty of people, as expected, did sort of, fight back against like, and it includes fans and other musicians. I mean, Dave Grohl of all people, like, defended it. Like, there's an article in Spin magazine like about it. I mean, even you'll dig this. Even his mom loved the performance. Like, yeah, yeah, I saw that. And I'm like, of course, yeah, of course, Dave Grohl would be for this for sure.
I love
Uh,
it.
so, speaking of performances, I do want to talk about your NPR Tiny Desk performances. Like, you've done like four of them: solo gig in 2017, one with Julie and Lucian for Boy Genius in 2018, one with Connor for Better Oblivion Community Center in 2019, and finally an at-home Tiny Desk concert in 2020. Uh, so how did these like performances like really impact you, like the experience?
Matt from the National one time was like, "They're more terrifying than late night TV." And there's something so intimate about it. And it's also like this challenge where people who are really, really compelling live performers just crush it. And people who are better at recording records and then not so much live, like, can sound really bad on Tiny Desk. So it's got a lot of pressure because you know that it's just like totally stripped back. I was writing a song with Blake Mills once, and I was like telling him about this band, and he was like, "Okay, okay, let me check it out." And he like opened their Tiny Desk immediately, and I think it's because yeah, you can tell how good somebody is at music by watching them in such a stripped back way. And it never was less nerve wracking. Like each time, like the Julian and Lucy one was really scary because we had all already done our own, and we were like, yeah, they're so scary. And then the Better Oblivion one was scary.
Yeah, I totally you know understand how kind of nerve-wracking it is. I mean, considering you're playing for like Bob Boylan and Robin Hilton, who are kind of, sort of leading forces in this whole music journalism thing. So yeah, it's kind of playing for that kind of audience. Like yeah, you really have to deliver or something like that.
Totally.
And it is my understanding that you've like used your music several times to support like charities. Like for one, you released Punisher a day early, like to encourage donations to Black Lives Matter. Like also, recently you covered a Merle Haggard song for the holidays to support LA's Downtown Women's Center. So how has your involvement with these charities really impacted you?
It's great. I think realizing that it's kind of like a 1 + 1 = 3 situation where as a private citizen, I can donate money to charity, sure, and I can sell merch, and like I do sell a lot of merch. Um, and I do sell a lot of records and people stream my songs or whatever. But if I say, hey, on this day, all the merch proceeds are going to go to this charity, I end up donating like so much more than if I just picked a random day and didn't tell anybody I was going to do that, or donated privately. Like it's so encouraging seeing how interested people are when you kind of make a big statement like that. I think that's what's so cool about it is just realizing that like an internet presence or making records actually has like a direct impact on the world. It's something that has surprised me and been really enjoyable in my adult life. You know, like I never thought I would have like a direct contact at certain charities and get opportunities to help all the time.
So before the pandemic, you actually did plan the tour behind this record with a couple of very notable indie artists from the UK, the 1975 and Biba Doobie. So of course, tour gets canceled because of COVID. That so I want to know, like, how did you deal like with this tour being put on hold?
I mean, it's a nightmare come true, but I think realizing how lucky I am is important. Like, if it had only happened to me, I would be so depressed. But because so many people have it worse, so it felt weirdly serendipitous because I finished my last video on like literally March 10th is when I finished the last video for the record. The whole record was done. We were all ready to print. So I just felt like I have to put it out over COVID because it's finished. And then I have friends who had to go home from the studio. I had friends who had to come home from tour. I have indie friends who, work at a coffee shop and were about to go on their first tour or something, and just that all got like ripped away. So I felt lucky to be able to focus on something and have finished just in time.
So, despite all the chaos, you went ahead and released the album, and of course, it gets really good reviews, and you kind of become the next big thing for indie. And I want to know, how was releasing this album during the pandemic different from like releases you put out while you were on tour and you'd already kind of given people a sneak peek before?
A lot of my songs change on tour. Like I'll change little words, or they'll get a lot faster, or we'll write a whole new part, or
Yeah.
find a new arrangement, and that's been totally taken away. So like I really haven't played with my band that much this album. I've played mostly solo in this room on Zoom. So it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, there were a couple virtual shows where we all got tested and played, but it's just too risky most of the time. It's just too like weird and strained. So I think that's the weirdest part, is that there's definitely like a camaraderie that's been taken away, where, you go on tour, it's like you're cowboys or something. Nobody ever sees their family, and you only have each other, and you like go to weird restaurants every day. I miss that stuff so much.
I bet that's really an adventure. Kind of, what you're doing on tour. Like, yeah, I think you may have said before that, I miss, like, complaining about like shitty hotel rooms or something. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, of course, yeah, you saw my review. You know that I loved the album as much as a lot of people did. One song in particular that really like struck a chord with me was the album's bombastic closer, "I Know the End," which, according to a music critics poll from Uprocks for 2020, which I actually was able to participate in, that is the number one song of 2020. Of course, I was one of the people that voted for that, and I also, put in like my top 10 albums of the year too. So I want to know, what's one song on this album that spoke to you more than any other, like in terms of lyrics or just all around like emotional, yeah, catharsis.
Well, yeah, that one was really fun, and it's especially fun to sing now because I always think it's the apocalypse. I always think something bad is going to happen, but having written about it and then it resonates with people, especially last year, is so cool. But then, yeah, there are songs that evolve for me lyrically. Like I really liked doing Kyoto with Jackson Brown recently because it felt more like a duet, which was really cool. And I like, I don't know, I even like doing I Know the End solo. It's just kind of, you can focus on the words more, and it's creepier like at the end when you
Oh,
instead of
yeah, 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 yeah. Because instead of the scream, you're doing the like. Yeah, I've heard some people call it like dragon breaths or something. Yeah, yeah. Like I saw one comment that was like, yeah, the dragon breaths at the end, that goes hard, or something like that.
It feels really good to sing this year and having had that whole year, especially like having made it so bombastic as you said, and then being forced because of the apocalypse to play it solo. Like it's just so funny.
It's the kind of song that never fails to like give me chills, what regardless of what kind of day I've had. Like, yeah, like good day, bad day. Like, yeah, that song is kind of, yeah, like it's the kind of song where once about 2 minutes in and kind of it all sort of begins to bubble up. Like I, I'm not thinking about much else except that song or something. And not to mention, yeah, like I actually saw, yeah, pretty long list of people on there. I mean, it's like Lucy, Julian, Connor, Christian, Marshall, but then also like kind of a lesser known artist on Saddle Creek, Tomberlin. Yeah, I saw that she's on there too.
Yeah, like Nick plays like from the IES plays like crazy guitar. It was so,
Yeah,
and it was like, I mean, I love the way that tape recordings sound, but that's why I love digital
yeah,
recordings, is because you can just be like, play on this, come
yeah.
in whenever, or we'll chop it up or anything. So fun.
Oh yeah. So anyway, this record, Punisher, was co-produced with Ethan Gruska and Tony Berg, who did your first album, Stranger in the Alps. Of course, other collaborators include, I already mentioned Connor. He like sings a little and like co-writes on half the record. And Lucy and Julian sing on the last two songs, and yeah, Christian Lee Hudson also like does quite a bit of co-writing on here. So how did these like collaborations come about and impact the outcome of this record?
I was on Better Oblivion tour for a lot of of the writing, and we were writing Better Oblivion songs for a lot of the writing of this record. Like I was kind of doing it in conjunction. So Christian and Connor are
I,
around all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So sorry, saying maybe there's going to be a second Better Oblivion album or something. Like I don't know.
that'd be awesome. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. That'd be cool. Like Boy Genius and Better Oblivion. Those are like a couple of projects where yeah, I hope they're not just one-offs.
I mean, Connor has a lot of side projects, and I feel like, someday it's just going to all come together again. I think the ethos of both bands are like, it should just be fun and not businessy or because we have to. But both those bands, like, nobody was forcing us to do that. So
Yeah,
I think it'd be really fun to do that again. And I love collaborating. I don't know. It adds a lot to the process, like especially to show. I do a lot of writing alone, and then when you show somebody that you trust a song and they really respond to it, it's just like it gets done so much faster because you're excited. Whereas when you're by yourself, you're like, does that suck, or did
yeah,
I stop being able to write songs?
yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely feel that, and I've like mentioned some of the people on the record that like that's only the tip of the iceberg of people you've collaborated with. Like some of the people I mentioned, like Fiona Apple and Matt from the National. You did a song in 1975, and but probably your most surprising collaboration of last year was yeah a duet with Kid Cudi on his new record. Man on the Moon 3. So I'm actually oddly kind of curious how that kind of came about.
Literally Twitter. Scott tweeted a picture of Scott Street.
Oh yeah, like him listening to Scott Street or something, and I know he said something like James and Phoebe would be something or stuff like that.
Yeah. So that was awesome. And then turns out we live really close and he invited me over. He records from a home studio as well. So well, he showed me the song first.
Yeah,
And then I listened and then I assumed I was just doing harmonies or something. And
yeah.
I showed up and he was like, "Where's your verse? Like what did you write?" And I was like, "Oh my god, was I supposed to write?" So I so I So I basically freestyled, like literally, like he played it a couple times, and I just like wrote something, and then he was like, "That's it, let's go." It was
Oh
so
yeah. Oh yeah, it's so funny. Yeah. And also yeah, like uh your background, yeah, like, this is very like yeah, man on the move kind of background. You're kind of
Oh yeah, true.
yeah, kind of flexing there, because it's like one of those you know albums, like, and also that song sort of, like, I can't listen to it without just picturing, like being in space or something. uh
Totally. Yeah, it's a great record. It's cool how he thinks of his records as so cinematic. Like they all have intros and outros and they all connect. It's
yeah.
very cool.
Oh yeah. And like, even though you two sort of come from two different musical worlds, you actually do have like one thing in common. You write these very like emotionally raw kind of uh songs or something like that. Yeah. And just for fun, I have a little ranked list of like every one of your projects, like solo or collaborative. Like, of course, number one is the album right behind me, Punisher. Two is Boy Genius. I definitely really liked that a lot. Three is Better Oblivion. I actually did a review of that. I That's probably my first like proper review of like, something you've been involved in. Which was around the time when you that interview where you talked about me kind of came across. And anyway, number four is your first record, Stranger in the Alps, from 2017. Uh, so, in my opinion, that's my ranked list. But I want to know kind of where Punisher stacks up against the rest of your albums.
I think you're right, man. I think the reason you're right, which is cool, is that that's literally in order. It's like my first record was the first thing I did. Then, we made Better Oblivion and Boy Genius in the exact same month. And also something about Boy Genius was so like just collective consciousness and weird. Like it was we
Oh,
all
yeah, like it definitely is no shock that you guys would be collaborating. But what is surprising though is how amazing it turned out. Because like, I tend to go into collaborations kind of skeptically. Like, are they going to have chemistry? Like, are these two just kind of doing it for the hell of it or something like that? It doesn't matter who you collaborate with, but you always bring something, like interesting to the table or something like that. Uh,
thanks. So yeah, I like that list. I think I would agree with that list.
So, well, you've done a lot during the pandemic. You know, of all things, you actually founded your own record label, and Satisfactory. So, like, how did the idea to like man your own label come about?
Mostly because there are so many people who are unsigned that I just love, and it feels weird to have to send my label an email and be like, "Do you like this? Will you put it out?" And I was also inspired by Connor and
Yeah.
Saddle, so I just and Dirty Hit.
Oh yeah, Dirty Hit. That's the label with 1975, Biba Doobie, Rina Sawayama. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's just such a cool thing, and just being able to have the power to be like, "I like you. I will put your records out,"
Hmm.
is really awesome. Like it just doesn't feel it feels like I hacked the music industry, you know?
Yeah. So, what do you think are really kind of the pros and cons of being the boss of your own label?
I mean, I think a con, which I haven't run into yet, would be disappointing somebody. Would
Yeah.
be like, my record didn't do well. Uh, why? And
Yeah.
like, you probably aren't trying that hard or something. I remember Connor and I talking about that because of some Saddle Creek artists that he signed where
Yeah.
just for whatever reason it didn't take off, or somebody was mad at him, or they didn't want to promote their album and then they wondered why nobody it didn't sell. But I haven't run into that. Like Claude is so hardworking and committed, and I am very very committed to working on Claude's album,
Yeah.
and hopefully I continue to sign people who are super super driven and want to try new things and whatever. But yeah, I think my fear would be disappointing somebody, especially because I only sign stuff I really care about. I think it would just be such a bummer to like sign something I love and then it gets fucked up and nobody hears it. Like that's that's the nightmare. But luckily it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I'd say the Saddle Creek label, like, lately is, there's been some like interesting artists I've heard from that label. Like, yeah, like there's a band.
that I've really gotten into named Young Jesus that has just this really cool like kind of crossover of like it's sort of math rock but also like very much jam, and like they sort of have this whole minimalistic jazz kind of side to what they do. I mean, yeah, it's and they're a band that like they're an example of a group that I really like a lot, but yet not too many people have written about it. But you can find a positive review of it on Pitchfork though, so that's definitely a band that I totally like. I totally like vibe to what they do. Uh,
Totally. Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
So, what are you currently working on? Like any like post-pandemic plans? Are you writing for the next album or something?
I'm always kind of writing, but I try to keep a clean slate in my brain for projects because there are better Oblivion songs I didn't know were going to be better Oblivion songs. There are Boy Genius songs I didn't know were going to be Boy Genius songs, and solo songs that I thought would be for a band. So I always just kind of write, and I try to have like a couple songs in the holster so that whatever project comes next I can focus on. But right now I'm kind of just writing for fun because I'm focusing on the label a lot, and it's been such a long album cycle that I'm just trying to keep my mind open. But yeah, I've just been writing and trying to work out the label, and I don't know, like reading more books and preparing for when somebody gives me a call and is like, you can tour now.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting seeing like what maybe the next collaboration is going to be or something, because at this point a lot of people in the indie world are kind of uh, probably going to give you a call like hey uh, can you be on my album, like I'd be interested if maybe you and somebody like uh, Adrian Lanker from Big Thief or like Casey Musgraves kind of cross paths someday.
I'd
Yeah,
love that.
like
Both those people are so awesome.
well, anyway, I'm really sad that we have to put a stop to this conversation because it was fantastic. Like you being my first guest on Album of the Day. So I think I'm doing this at just the right time when
And it means a lot.
I'm now kind of all in on
Sweet.
now.
I'm glad I got you.
So would you mind telling our listeners where we can find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm a professional now, so I think my Twitter name is just Phoebe_Bridgers. Instagram is just Phoebe Bridgers. Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff.
Yeah.
TikTok is very. I think I'm Phoebe Bridgers 69 on TikTok, but I only have 3 TikToks. So
Yeah, like I said, it's definitely hard having to say goodbye, but I hope you have a good one, and maybe we'll see each other somewhere around maybe 2023 when you can play shows again or something.
exactly. See you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Great, man. Bye. Have a
Bye.
great day.
If you want to see my review of Punisher, be sure to check out the link below in the description. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a nice comment. If you have any suggestions for future improvements I could make to the show, I'd be glad to hear them. And you can also find me at my Facebook and Twitter links, which are also down below. Uh, Album of the Day is edited by Louisa Phillips. Thank you to Phoebe Bridgers for participating, and to you for listening to our conversation. Have a good day, everyone.